Is Nirvana the end of suffering, the truth about absolute freedom in Buddhism? Imagine being able to let go of all worries, fears, and attachments. No more greed, no more hatred, no more suffering. A state of complete inner freedom and peace. Does that sound like an unattainable utopia? In Buddhism, this is the ultimate goal, Nirvana. But what does Nirvana really mean? Is it a heavenly place one reaches after death? Or is it something that can be attained during one's lifetime? Many people have a vague idea of it, but few realize that it is not about an external paradise, but an inner state of absolute liberation. In this audiobook, we explore the true meaning of Nirvana. We clarify misconceptions, take a closer look at Buddhist teachings, and ask ourselves whether it is possible to approach this state in everyday life. Because perhaps Nirvana is not as distant as you might think. Chapter 1. What is Nirvana? Nirvana, a word often confused with enlightenment, salvation, or even a state of nothingness. But what does it really mean? The term Nirvana comes from Sanskrit and literally means blowing out or extinguishing. But what exactly is being extinguished? In Buddhism, Nirvana refers to the cessation of the three great roots of suffering: greed, hatred, and ignorance. Unlike the concept of heaven in other religions, Nirvana is not a physical place, nor a paradise one reaches after death. It is a state of being, a liberation from the chains of one's attachments and negative emotions. While many belief systems aim for an afterlife in a better world, Buddhism teaches that Nirvana can be experienced here and now. Those who attain Nirvana are free from craving, free from ego, and free from attachment. The cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, samsara, comes to an end. But what does this mean for us? Does it imply that we must give up everything? Or are there ways to gradually move toward this state? This is exactly what we will explore in the following chapters. Chapter 2. Is Nirvana attainable? If Nirvana means complete liberation from suffering, the question arises, is this state even attainable? Or is it merely a distant ideal reserved for only a few? In Buddhism, there are different perspectives on how Nirvana can be achieved. In the Theravada tradition, Nirvana is often seen as the ultimate goal, attained through strict discipline, deep meditation, and the complete renunciation of worldly attachments. This understanding is closely tied to the life of the Buddha, who reached enlightenment through ascetic practice and profound inner realization. Here, Nirvana appears to be primarily for monks or highly dedicated practitioners, those willing to completely withdraw from the world. The Mahayana tradition, on the other hand, views Nirvana as something that should be accessible not just to individuals, but to all sentient beings. Instead of leaving the world behind, it introduces the concept of the bodhisattva, someone who has attained enlightenment but chooses to remain in the cycle of existence to help others achieve liberation as well. In this view, Nirvana is not just a state of complete detachment, but is also deeply intertwined with compassion and wisdom. But what does this mean for those of us leading ordinary lives? Do we have to give up our familiar way of living to attain Nirvana? Not necessarily. Many Buddhist teachings emphasize that it's not about waiting for a sudden breakthrough, but rather about gradually moving toward the state of Nirvana through small changes in our daily lives. Every time we practice mindfulness, let go of greed or release anger, we take a step closer to this freedom. Nirvana is not just a distant goal for monks, but a direction in which anyone can move, step by step, day by day. But how exactly can this be applied in everyday life? Chapter 3. The Path to Inner Freedom, Steps Toward Nirvana. Nirvana may seem like a vast and distant goal, but the journey toward it begins with small steps in the here and now. Buddhism teaches that there is no single secret method that leads directly to enlightenment. Rather, it is daily practices that bring us step by step closer to a state of inner freedom. Mindfulness and meditation, the key to liberation. One of the most important paths toward nirvana is the practice of mindfulness and meditation. When we consciously live in the present moment, without being overwhelmed by worries about the future or regrets about the past, we take a significant step toward inner liberation. Regular meditation helps us observe our thoughts and emotions, rather than being controlled by them. We come to realize that pain and joy come and go. Nothing lasts forever. This insight alone can bring great relief, as it teaches us not to cling unnecessarily to things or let negative experiences dominate our lives. Letting go of attachment, the foundation of inner freedom. One of the main causes of our suffering is our constant attachment, whether to material things, to people, or to ideas about how our lives should be. We cling to the past, fear the future, and resist reality instead of accepting it. Nirvana does not mean feeling nothing or cutting all ties. It is about seeing the world as it is, without compulsively holding on to things. When we recognize that everything is impermanent, we become freer. We can experience joy without fearing its end, and we can endure pain without being trapped in it forever. Compassion and wisdom, two pillars of enlightenment. Nirvana is not just a state of peace, but also one of deep wisdom. This wisdom lies in understanding the nature of life, the coming and going, the growth and decay, but also in recognizing how we ourselves contribute to this cycle. Compassion is just as important as insight. A person who lets go of their ego and develops compassion for others experiences a much deeper form of liberation than someone who focuses solely on their own enlightenment. Buddhism teaches that true happiness comes from helping others and seeing oneself as part of a greater whole. Every time we practice mindfulness, release attachments, or cultivate compassion, we move one step closer to inner freedom. Nirvana is not a place where we arrive one day. It is a state of consciousness that we can realize step by step in our daily lives. Chapter 4. Nirvana in Daily Life. Is it possible? Nirvana is often seen as an unattainable state, reserved only for monks or spiritual masters. However, Buddhism teaches that every person, regardless of their lifestyle or environment, can experience moments of enlightenment and deep inner peace. Nirvana is not necessarily a final goal that can only be reached after a long spiritual journey. Rather, it can reveal itself in small, conscious moments throughout life. How we can free ourselves from greed, anger, and ignorance in daily life. In Buddhism, greed, lobha, anger, dosa, and ignorance, moha, are referred to as the three poisons of the mind that prevent us from finding inner peace. They are the main causes of our suffering and manifest in many ways, whether in our constant desire for more, our frustration with others, or our refusal to accept reality as it is. But what if we could consciously recognize these mental poisons and gradually overcome them? Letting go of greed, instead of always striving for more, whether it be possessions, recognition, or success, we can cultivate gratitude for what we already have. This does not mean giving up on goals, but rather not tying our happiness to external things. Transforming anger. Anger often arises from unmet expectations or wounded ego. When we learn to understand ourselves and others instead of making quick judgments, anger can transform into compassion. Overcoming ignorance. Many of our struggles come from not truly understanding the nature of life. Through mindfulness and reflection, we can see that nothing is permanent, neither happiness nor suffering, and become less dependent on external circumstances. If you want to explore this topic further, you'll find an audiobook in the info box that delves deeply into overcoming these 3 mental poisons, practical exercises, how to cultivate serenity. Nirvana does not begin with a sudden, enlightening moment, but with small changes in our thinking and actions. Here are some simple exercises that can help you develop greater inner peace. Take conscious pauses. In stressful moments, take a brief pause. Breathe deeply and ask yourself, do I need to respond to this situation with anger or greed? Often this short reflection is enough to act more mindfully and calmly. Practice gratitude. Write down 3 things you are grateful for each day. This helps shift your focus away from what is missing and toward what is already present. Minimalism as a mental practice. Not only reduce material possessions, but also let go of unnecessary worries and fears. Ask yourself, do I really need to hold on to this thought? Train compassion. In conflicts, try to take the other person's perspective instead of immediately reacting with anger or defensiveness. Nirvana as a state of mind, an inner experience rather than a distant goal. Many people imagine nirvana as a distant, unattainable state that can only be reached after many lifetimes or years of intense meditation. However, Buddhism teaches us that nirvana is not a reward for spiritual effort, but a state of mind that can be experienced at any moment. Whenever you let go instead of clinging, accept instead of resisting, and live consciously in the present moment, rather than being caught up in worry or desire, you are already experiencing a glimpse of nirvana. It is not about achieving perfection or instantly abandoning all attachments, but about constantly reminding yourself that true freedom begins within. What does nirvana mean to you? Nirvana is more than just a philosophical concept or a spiritual goal. It is an invitation to fundamentally change the way we perceive life. While some see it as complete liberation from the cycle of suffering and rebirth, others view it as a state of inner serenity and freedom in the present moment. But no matter how one defines it, one thing is clear. Nirvana does not begin somewhere in the distant future, but in the choices we make in every moment. What does nirvana mean to you? Every person experiences life differently, with unique challenges, hopes, and fears. That's why there is no universal path to nirvana, only your own. Perhaps nirvana means finding inner peace, even when life feels chaotic. Maybe it's the ability to let go of fears and develop trust in the present moment. Or it might simply be the realization that true freedom doesn't mean being detached from everything, but rather flowing with life without clinging to it. Take a moment to reflect. What is keeping you from experiencing inner freedom? Are there thoughts, expectations, or worries that you can or should let go of? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. Your perspective might inspire others on their journey. In the next audiobook, we will dive into another fundamental concept of Buddhism: impermanence. Nothing in life lasts forever, yet we often try to hold on to things. How can understanding impermanence help us live more mindfully and happily? Stay tuned and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next audiobook. Until next time, stay mindful and free.